now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Hey everybody, I'm Erick, and this is Raw Minds Podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Dr. Ron Stotts. Ron has spent over 50 years doing the work most people avoid, the inner work, the uncomfortable work, and the work that shapes you when no one is watching. He holds a PhD in psychology and a doctorate in chiro. He is a 3-time best-selling author. He has guided leaders, entrepreneurs through burnout, breakdown, and real change. Ron teaches conscious leadership, not the buzzword kind, the kind that starts inside your emotions, your body, and your past. The kind that forces you to stop pretending and start telling the truth. In this conversation, we will talk about why leaders struggle right now and why emotion intelligence matters more than the title, how pain can become power, and why most people search outside of the answers that only exist within. This is not surface talk. This is real work. If you're a leader, a parent, a business owner, a partner, or someone trying to live with purpose, this episode will hit home. If this conversation helps you, like it, share it, comment your biggest takeaway, follow Raw Minds so this message reaches the people who need to hear it. Let's get into it and welcome our guest. Welcome, Ron, to Raw Minds.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out and coming on.
Yep.
I do at the start like to get all my guests to plug all their socials and whatever they can get at you, man. So if you can just tell people where you're at and people can watch your videos and know how to reach out.
I think if somebody went to my website at ronstotts.com, that's really where they could find everything. That's where they could find the books and the blogs and the free information that they can use to start their own inner journey and get a sense of what I do. So that's really the key place that I'd refer somebody to.
And then you have your 3 best-selling books as well that people can tell. Yes, please.
Yeah, those kind of came out of, I was working with a fellow, literally a billionaire, but he's in the personal growth and development field. And I kept hearing him talk about this thing that he'd really like to be doing, but he was so successful with everything that he was doing that he didn't have time to take on this pet project. It was kind of like, back in the day when people would create 3 albums and they'd play the songs on those for the rest of their life rather than creating the next album that they want. And so anyway, I wrote the book with him in mind because I started hearing that that's really, really common, and it's called Overscheduled by Success. And it's really a guide that helps people recognize that, you're good, you're doing well, but what's your real dream? What's your highest intention? What's that thing that you really want to be working on? And, learning to take the time to create that, because it's great to sing the old songs, but let's get some new material out there so that you're continuing to evolve and grow.
I love it. And so that's one of your books, or is that like a multiple of like?
No, that's
kind of
one.
back-to-back?
I created one. I really saw that people will even say oftentimes, I just can't control my mind. Well, if you can't control your mind, you can't control your life. And so I actually created the ins and outs of mindfulness as a book for my more advanced clients, but it was something that they were buying and giving away. And so I started, I put it on Amazon and all of that sort of thing. But it's really about a year-long mindfulness journal and a combination of all that. So you really get to pay attention to the shifts that you're going through. You get to pay attention to how to pay more attention, how to be more present, how to be more mindful, all of that. Lots of ways to talk about it. But what we're really talking about is literally neurologically rewiring your brain so that it becomes more focused. So you're accessing higher levels of thinking and not those same old repetitive patterns that keep you locked in. So, the third book is Transformational Leadership. And that is really more, I've done a lot of work in leadership, and it's more introduction to help people understand the different levels of leadership and what they can do to attain those levels. The old climbing the corporate ladder thing is just really outdated, right? In today's world, if you can prepare yourself and you come in a really more self-aware, emotionally intelligent person, you're gonna find yourself catapulting up, and really jumping up in that ladder well beyond people who've been there for years.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, would say a good large percentage of the folks that come to me, half of them are men, and they've been successful. They've been doing fine, but now they're feeling stuck. They're feeling like they've hit
The plateau.
that glass
Yeah.
ceiling that we talk about sometimes. And every time it's just because they've done great and with what they've had, but they need more. And what they're always doing is they're looking for that more outside of themselves. Not ever, as men, we're just not trained to look inside of ourselves. And yet
Hmm.
that's exactly where they need to go to access more of who and what they are so that they can become literally more self-aware, more emotionally intelligent, more capable. Because as you do those things, it's really amazing to watch because all of a sudden you're accessing higher levels of thinking. The
Hmm.
left brain, logical brain, which most of them are stuck in, and it's really worked for them so far. That got them into the right schools, the right jobs, etc. But now they need the bigger picture. They need the emotional reality so they can work with people. They need to be able to be more spontaneous in the ever increasing challenges of the workforce nowadays.
Does that side help you adapt more too? Is that the side of the brain that helps you
Right
adapt?
way to say it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just much more present. And the
Yeah.
beauty of it in relationship to what you're talking about is as the left and right start working together, that you get integrated whole brain thinking. So all of a sudden your mind is quieter and you're more present. You're accessing those higher levels of thinking. But the amazing thing that happens then, and this is all neurological, the forebrain, the prefrontal cortex, really, and it can't do it in a noisy mind, but all of a sudden, as your mind gets quieter, more integrated, and more, uh, you know, adaptable to everything, that forebrain begins to develop and really blossoms. And all of a sudden, it takes over as the conscious CEO of your life, rather than
Mm.
the amygdala, the emotional center that really runs most people's lives.
And that's in the back.
It's kind of two little almonds in the midbrain, below the
So
mid. Yeah,
isn't that funny? Because like, you want to drive forward, right? So
yeah,
this is what you should be using, I guess, the front part,
yeah.
right? But we're using most people you said is using the back. So it's like we're going reverse half the time when we should be going forward, right?
Well, and they're just, it's funny because I watch I mean, everybody wants to be in control of their life. I get that. But I'll watch them and it's like as soon as they come up against something that's uncomfortable, things get a little difficult, a little challenging or emotional or whatever it might be. I watch that most, especially guys, all of a sudden they stop breathing. They literally kind of hold and tighten and contract. And what they're communicating is that they're in a fight or flight situation, which
Mhm.
is fine if, a lion's chasing you across the tundra, but that's not usually the case any longer.
Yeah.
What you're communicating to your body is, okay, we need to shut down half of our nervous system. We need to not be worrying about higher level thinking. We need to be in primal, take care of myself mode. And so as they begin to understand what they're doing to gain control in that moment, they begin to recognize that they're completely out of control because
Mhm.
they're not breathing. They've lost access to higher level thinking. They don't have that bigger picture to understand what their optimal path is in any given,
Mm.
business, personal, whatever it might be.
And your mind too is just going, right? So you got all these thoughts in your head, and how can you focus on one thing when
Yeah.
there's things just passing you by,
Yep.
right?
So if you want to be in control, you have to learn to breathe. You have to take care of all the things that are distracting you, which means mostly it's subconscious. And, so,
Mhm.
I mean, we have this image of being a man where we're shutting down and trying to control all that stuff. Well, if 10%, 5, maybe 10% of your thoughts is all that you're aware of, that means you're trying to control 90% of your subconscious thoughts. And you
Mhm.
don't even know what's
Yeah.
going on in that.
Yeah. And you can't control it's hard to control those. And
Can't
like a lot of people don't understand that the conscious mind can't determine like, good or bad or whatever, you know what I mean? It just sees like if I'm right, like maybe I'm wrong, but I mean I'm pretty sure like conscious mind is just it's because it doesn't really determine bad or good or anything, right? Am I right? Like that, it just kind of, you kind of build it yourself, obviously, but like you don't have full control, I mean, is what it is. It's like it's on its own, and it's like its own little computer, I guess you could say, right?
Well, if you only have awareness about 5 or 10% of your thoughts, you
Yeah.
can be determined. You can come up with a big plan. You can be determined you're going to accomplish that. You can come up with all these goals that you're going to have in terms of, accomplishing that big plan. Well, if 90% of your brain isn't involved in that, or it's not
Yeah.
supportive of that, or is frightened and uncomfortable with that, it's going to sabotage it, and
Yeah.
it'll never
Yeah.
happen. You'll look really good for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
then you'll stop. Something will get in the way. I mean,
It's like
the
a bike
program.
with 2 flat tires,
Yeah,
riding a bike with 2 flat tires, you're trying to get to the place, but, like, it's gonna be a struggle definitely, right?
there's a program on TV that I enjoy watching, and it, not Survivor. They take 10 people and put them out in the middle of nowhere, and
Mhm.
they,
Naked and Afraid, is that the one?
yeah, but they're not naked.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, because I know there's one like that, and they have a group, and I think it's like something about 10. They have 5 on one side, 5 on the other, but they
Yeah,
don't tell
no,
them where they are, and they're naked, and they only get an axe and a couple things, and that's it.
yeah, but on this one, it's so interesting watching because you can always spot the people when they're going to quit. They
Mhm.
call in and say, "Oh, I'm done." I mean, and it's
Yeah.
90% of the time, it's not because, well, it's because they did something stupid because they weren't paying attention, but they
Yeah.
also just sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
What most people don't really understand is that, I am so impressed with what people did when they were a kid to
Mhm.
survive, to get the amount of love that or get as much love as they could get, to take care of themselves. No matter what their parents were like, they they figured out what they needed to be like or to do, or
Yeah.
what parts they needed to hide away and what parts they needed to present to get as much love as they could. All of those things were brilliant when you were a kid. They really were. They took care of you, they got you through it. But all of those things that we hid away as a child, that all those things that we use to take care of ourselves, now sabotage our life as an adult. So, if you don't go back and really clear up that stuff and
Mhm.
neurologically rewire your brain so you're not at the effect of it, which really means
Mhm.
turning all that subconscious into conscious so that you can handle it and move forward. And, if you don't do that, it's going to run your entire life, and it'll literally be sabotaging your entire life.
And it controls you. It will control you. Like I have a lot of trauma that I dealt with, like when I was a kid and growing up. Like I had actually PTSD from eating meat. I know it's a weird thing to say,
Oh, no.
but
Yeah.
when I was about 5 years old, I was in a camp, a summer camp,
Yeah.
and I got in trouble. And the camp leader would force feed cubes of meat into my mouth. I had there's like two trays, like McDonald's trays, I guess, or whatever, food trays,
Right.
and they had cubes of meat. And this lady would stab it with a fork, shove it in my mouth, stab another one, hold it in front of my mouth, and until I would swallow, and did that. And then I would get up, run to the bathroom, puke it out, sit
Yeah.
back down, and she would just keep on doing that. Then I would get up, run. So it psychologically messed up my mind that every time I wanted to eat meat, I would puke. And it's like, it smelled good. I really wanted to eat it. Like
Yeah.
to the point, like my buddy, he was on MasterChef Canada. He's my best friend. He passed away. Rest in peace, Chad. But he was amazing cook, and he would hide meat in his meals, to make, and then like, I would know. It's like he would smile, and soon as like he would smile, I would like know, like my PTSD would kick in, and I would run and puke, or I'd start like
Right.
vomiting. You know what I mean? Until I dealt with it. Now I can eat meat. I was 30. I started at like 32 to 36.
Yeah.
By 36, now I can eat meat. Wagyu steaks. I love Wagyu steaks. They're my favorite. So feel free, send me Wagyu steaks if you have a Wagyu farm. But yeah, so yeah, like it really messed me up until I had to deal with it all the way up to
Well,
probably like, and I still some days, like there is some moments I do struggle with it, and I will struggle with the rest of my life because it was a hard moment in my life, like I will have those flashbacks because yeah, it was something that was
well,
traumatic in my life.
and it's a matter of going back and healing that experience back then,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that you don't have those flashbacks, so that
Yeah.
doesn't come up. I mean, the problem is, at least what you were dealing with, you were aware of, and that's
Yeah.
a lot easier to deal with. I'm not
Yeah.
easy, but the number of people and men that I see are sabotaging their success. They're sabotaging their relationships. They're sabotaging their health. They're sabotaging core aspects of their life, and they're
Hmm.
completely unaware of how and when they do it. And so they're not broken. They've just adapted in a way that doesn't really allow them to thrive and really
Hmm.
move forward in life.
And you would say obviously that all stems to, and let's face it, most of the time it's like some kind of like parent that traumatized or someone that we looked up to. It's really sad to say, but usually it stems from that. Like I had oh god, now it's slipped on the side of my um separation anxiety,
Yeah.
because my dad left when I was a kid too, and that affected me big time growing up until I dealt with it, I didn't know how to take, I wouldn't say no for an answer, but I would take rejection well, like in myself, like I would, like it would just eat me up.
Yep.
And like what I mean, like inside I would look fine on the outside with the smile, the mask we put on, but inside it would kill me. I would come inside like when I was younger in a relationship, and I would just like bawl because it would kill me because it would bring me back to those times of like,
Well,
I'm
and the
not
great
enough.
thing is yeah, as a kid, we want acceptance,
Hmm.
love more than anything else. And we keep looking for it from people who don't even love and accept themselves, so they don't know how to give it. They don't even recognize that we want it.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it is, yeah, you can't do it as a kid so much, and to do whatever you have to do to survive is what you need to do. But
Yeah.
as an adult, you have the ability to go back and heal that little boy, to really become the parent that he needed and reparent him and help him to heal. You have, as an adult, you have that opportunity to find that unconditional love you always wanted by loving
Hmm.
and accepting yourself, by taking
Yeah.
care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, because once you I mean, if you wanna be a strong, capable human being, nothing gives you more strength and capability than fully learning to accept and love yourself. Because
Hmm.
then that whole game about trying to impress others or caring what other people think, performing, about trying
I know.
this, all of that goes away. You
Yeah.
just get to be a confident, authentic human being with access to your greatest capabilities.
And that is so true what you say right now, because I'm in that spot in my life. I've been here for a while now where I don't care who you are, what you think of me. You're not coming. I say this all the time. You're not coming to my birthday party, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I'm happy in my own little bubble with the people that I care about in me that bring value to my life. And at this point, I love myself. If you don't bring value to my life as I would bring value to yours, because it's a mutual, right? It's an exchange, right? Definitely it's an exchange. Then there's no point of you being in my life. And like I say this with the utmost respect. I don't care about burning bridges. I usually carry gasoline with me, but in a healthy way of burning bridges, though. You know what I mean? I'm not out there like F
Yeah.
you everybody, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like in a healthy way, like, your boundaries, like, no, like I don't need you. And it's cut. And that's it. Once that's done, that's it. Cause I'm not gonna bring that toxicity back into my life again.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
or it's have
and they
that.
talk about men not having depth and that kind of thing. And the truth is, we do have depth, but we lack safe spaces to drop
Yeah.
our armor, And if we don't love and accept ourselves unconditionally, then we're always worried about dropping that armor. We're always worried
Mhm.
about how other people see us. And boy, I'll tell you, moving past that is the most empowering thing you'll ever experience. Yeah.
It really is, and like it's a struggle. I will say this: it's a struggle out there, and I'm just saying this specifically for men because this is a men's mental health show,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
and it happens in both sex. Don't get me wrong, but it is like, you know a lot of partners out there, women, they'll want, I want this, vulnerable man and all this. So I've had my friends even be this vulnerable person, and then they're like, no, I don't like you. You're too weak, And then so then I've had my friend, and they like they contract, right? So
Yeah.
now what do? You like, do you be this strong person or do you be this weak? Now you're battling your own thoughts in your head, which
Yeah.
now, you know what I mean? And it really sucks. But what everybody has to think, like we talked just before, is who gives a shit what people think? At the end of the day, who gives a
Yeah,
shit?
yeah.
It's your life. You have one life to live. It's your life. Live it the best way that you can, because life is short. Life is short. Simple as that.
I'll refer back to it again just because I watched it a night or two ago. And
Yeah.
the survival program. I mean, there was one guy, seemed like he was doing pretty well. I mean, he had his survival skills down, but all of a sudden he started feeling emotions and sadness. And it was interesting to listen to his dialogue about how he was trying to train his kids to shove their emotions down so they didn't have to actually feel sad. And it was just on and on and on. And I think it was only on day 8, which is like you just got your camp set up.
Yeah, just get your feet wet. Yeah.
You caught a fish and you're just getting going. He was feeling so emotional that he quit. And the irony was that he hadn't actually shown much emotion, but he was fighting it so much that he just couldn't, it was a fight that he wasn't capable
He
of.
couldn't fight. Yeah.
And that was because he was fighting it rather than breathing and going into it.
Yeah.
Men try and I saw him doing that. He was trying to solve feelings. Like, if I can just figure this out, if I can just figure out how to deal with it. And it's like, no, you got to just breathe them and experience.
Yeah.
And as you do that, you become more comfortable with them. You become more emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent. I remember I must have been in my mid-20s and I was taking a workshop. Some friends of mine said, "Oh, you got to go do this." Okay.
Why not? Yeah.
And there was a couple that was running this, and it was just, she's going, "And Ron, what about your anger?" And I'm looking at her and go, "What are you talking about? I don't have any anger. I'm Mr. Spiritual. I'm a Zen monkish guy." And I'll tell you, by the end of the weekend, I knew exactly what she was talking about.
Yeah.
I was so good at hiding it and burying it deep inside that I was completely unaware of it.
And that was,
to be honest with you, it wasn't like I had a lot of anger, but my fear of showing any anger was just holding me back in so many areas of my life, in terms
and
of
you're just pushing it down and hiding it and hiding it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
And that's when it gets dangerous, and that's when
Oh.
it can get dangerous because
Yeah.
if you don't treat that stuff, you could possibly even lose your life. You know what I mean? Depending on how bad it could go,
No
It
question.
really, it's, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can't solve it. You've got to learn to breathe into it. And
yeah.
the great thing that I've learned, and it was not easy, is, I really recognize that every time I don't breathe, that's a signal that there's something ready to be looked at. And so,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so instead of going with that old pattern of not breathing and shoving down, I'm going to learn to breathe and look at it. I'm going to just be curious and go, well, what feeling is that? Well, what's that about? Well, when in my life did that come up? And that became a new habit. And I didn't understand it back at the time, but what I was really doing also, at least, was neurologically rewiring my brain that when I'm feeling something uncomfortable, rather than going into that old shutdown pattern, I go into curiosity, and I've gotten to a place now in my life where that's all I ever need to do is breathe and be curious, because that puts me in my highest state of consciousness so that I can have access to my highest levels of thinking, so that whatever is coming into my life, if I'm breathing and curious, then I'm going to be able to optimally handle that, whatever it is that comes into my life, whether it's relationship stuff, business stuff,
Anything.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
whatever.
and not just that though, too. It like breathing puts oxygen into your body, which, hello, we all need, right? And it puts more oxygen and your body breathes it more, which means also opens up. Like, there's science behind this, it's proven facts, right? Like, breath work is amazing. I don't know. Do you know the Iceman? I say it all the time. The Iceman.
I know
Like,
what you mean.
yeah, the guy's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about a real life superhero, man? Like, that guy's crazy, and that's breath work. How he can control the body temperature. He was hiking Alaska in shorts and sandals, in Alaska, or the mountain or whatever, Everest. That's what it was, Everest or something. In shorts and fucking sandals, man. And because he controlled, but it's wild. And like, to go back, like, even with grief, for people who are listening, and I say this all the time, is like, you gotta feel it. You can't run away with it. And it's the same with that, right? You got to feel the emotions through everything. You can try to run away from it, but eventually it's going to catch up to you, just like how grief is, and it's going to be the same with that, with all emotions or whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You can only run for so far, man, but eventually it will. And it doesn't
Oh,
matter how old you are, it will catch up to you.
well, I think we try and outperform it. If I
Yeah,
can get enough money, if I can just get enough success, if I can just get
yeah,
my body just right, if I can, yeah, and we try
yeah,
to perform, and many men
yeah,
don't even know who they are outside their roles that they're performing in,
yeah,
quite literally, and,
yeah.
and that's really costly.
You're lost. They're lost, really. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
Like, what's that, there's a saying out there is like, "You haven't lived until you died." I think that's the saying, you know what I mean? Where
I
you
like it.
kill the old self of yourself and all that trauma and stuff, and you heal yourself, that part of you dies, and you become the person, that you were meant to be after all the hard work, you know?
I see so many men, they're strong and successful, but inside they're still feeling incomplete. They still feel
Yeah,
not living up to their potential. And
yeah,
because we're not taught how to feel, and we're not
yeah,
taught how to function with our feelings.
yeah.
It's
Well,
got to change.
I wanna ask you something here. What's one hard truth the leaders avoid saying out loud? Would you have to say from your experience?
That's a great question. I'm not having trouble finding one. I'm trying to sort.
That's fair. That's fair.
They're so caught in looking outside of themselves. That whatever the problem is, whether it's, and I'm working with leaders most, so I'll just refer to that,
Hmm.
having trouble with somebody in the organization, if they're having a marketing problem, whatever it is, they're always looking outside of themselves, identifying those problems, and then they're looking outside for solutions.
Hmm.
And I mean, we're talking 99% of the time when they call me, it's just very easy for me to recognize, I'll just casually say, well, so what's underneath that? And what's underneath
Hmm.
that? And what happens is they begin to recognize that, oh, that's not an outside problem. That's a problem that I'm having within myself. That outside problem is just a reflection of it. And then I kind of very casually and supportively just go, well, when did you first start feeling that? And inevitably, it's when they were a kid. And so
Hmm.
all of a sudden, so I kind of casually say, well, so who's running your life? Oh, that 3-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
why in the world would you put your 3-year-old self, who's trying to survive and look outside of himself for everything,
Hmm.
in charge of your adult life? It's just to
See,
not.
my counselor helped me. Like I see, actually, see her this Wednesday, but I've seen counselor forever, and she helped me. I wasn't driving my bus. I wasn't driving my bus for my whole life, pretty much. It was fight or flight, right? And this guy was just all crazy all over the road. You know what I mean? He was avoiding everything. One little pebble on the road, he's
Yeah,
avoiding everything. And she taught me how to, like, I was at the back of the bus, like me, my purse, and
yeah.
she taught me how to, like, get up at the back of the bus, walk up to the front, grab that guy and tell him, "Hey, you can't be driving this bus anymore. I got Google Maps. I'm the one with the Google Maps." And ever since then it's been a lot easier, because I have control of what's in front of me now. And
Yeah.
like, you may think you have control of what's in front of you, but a lot of times you don't if you have untreated trauma that you haven't dealt with, you know
Yeah.
you're running on the very first generation of Google Maps right now when you should be
Yeah.
fully upgraded.
Way way beyond that one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, healing is not fixing yourself. It's
Yeah.
eating yourself without all the defenses up. It's
Mhm.
really it's an intimate time because you get to
Mhm.
really go, "Well, who am I?" And you become more self-aware. You see what your beliefs are. You see what's limiting you. You see what's in the way, and there's nobody there to judge you other than yourself, and so
Mhm.
you get to be with yourself. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to stop.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that shift starts when a man stops fighting himself, stops resisting himself, stops feeling like, well, I shouldn't have those feelings, or I shouldn't be that way, or I should be this level of success or something. You don't need to become someone new,
No.
literally. You just need to give yourself permission to be fully human.
I love that. It's true. Permission. Give yourself permission. How does like unhealed pain though like show up in leadership? Like how can you see it show up in, like how can someone realize, that they are dealing with some unhealed pain maybe out there that they don't realize it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's not an easy one, because they're not paying attention. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
problem is most leaders are just using their ego just sloshes out throughout their organization and affects everybody and creates a very unsafe, unsupportive area. And then they're
Mhm.
blaming everybody else and firing people and
It's
coming
one
up.
of these.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, it's a matter of there's enough indicators.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good. Yeah, I think you got me where I need to get to here.
I was gonna make a T-shirt actually like that a long time ago in construction because everybody just points everybody else. It's
Mhm.
everybody else's, but it's really usually right here, right?
And so it's a matter of if you pay attention to the indicators, which unfortunately most people don't until they've really gotten the shit kicked out of them. But the indicators, your relationships, your relationship with yourself, the level of disconnection you have with yourself is always going to be mirrored in your relationship with others. Your inability to take care of yourself, your inability to be compassionate with yourself, your inability to be empathetic and considerate of yourself, your lack of emotional awareness within yourself. That's all going to be mirrored in your relationships with others and the others around you. So, it's going to, you've got to just notice. I mean, I had one guy who's got like 5 9-figure businesses. Now they're much more, he actually tripled the value on some of those over the last 5 years. But, he came to me, very successful, very smart guy, but he didn't come until the one dream, really the love of his life was leaving him. His two adult
Mhm.
sons were disconnecting.
Oh,
He was losing some valuable people in his organizations. And it was finally like, okay.
it's time.
I
Something's
mean, he
wrong here.
came in, he didn't want to be in that room. He did not want to be dealing with me at all.
Well, and he's a boss himself. He's a leader himself, so he doesn't want to be told, like you are not doing this properly.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure,
His
definitely.
first comment, I had just sat down. He actually came up. I live on an island. He came up and actually rented a home on the island for a couple of months just because he wanted to,
Yeah,
really.
focus. Get it.
And the first thing he said as I was sitting down, he says, "And this love stuff, I don't love myself, and I'm doing fine." I literally, if I hadn't just sat down, I probably wouldn't have.
So that like just from what you told me, that almost sounds like someone running on autopilot.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I really do.
You know?
He's just so used to being the way he is and,
Yeah.
being the bully, being that
He got complacent,
he
definitely,
never
probably in that lifestyle.
notices that other people are going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you know what a great thing is like I call it blinders, right? Like a lot of blinders, like how horses have them, right? And you can
Yeah,
only see straight, and
yeah.
you're not seeing like the bigger picture, what's around you. I find that. I think. Would you say kind of it's the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, they know something's wrong.
Yeah.
They won't acknowledge that it's within themselves.
Yeah. They take it and just throw it over there for later.
And
Yeah.
even the way I said that was interesting because it's not, they feel what I want them to recognize is there's nothing wrong with them. They've just come up with ways to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you not only don't have to, but you can't carry it alone. You
Yeah.
know, you,
Definitely.
it's too heavy a burden. I mean, how many guys have low back problems, for example? And that's directly a result of carrying a ton of stuff that's not even yours to be carrying.
Is that because your shoulders are all tense, your
Yeah.
body's all tense when you're fighting? Like I'm telling, I have this problem. Like it hurts. Like I'm 41. This should not happen. It hurts to like just bend over sometimes to mow the lawn. After a while, my lower back. I mean, mind you, I kicked carpet for a while, and I was in construction, so my back. I
Yeah.
used to be. Oh yeah, I used to try to carry the most 4x6s and stuff. I was one of those idiots.
I've done that.
Back in the day. Yeah, right. But I mean, like, I don't know if it's a multiple of that, plus also the lot of strain because, like, I'm like, I've been always clenched up because I've been in that fight or flight mode,
That's
and
exactly right.
you're exhausted, and you may not think that you're exhausted. You may not like be running around and doing marathons and stuff, but you're exhausted because your mind, your conscious mind, is like going like this, right? And you're running in circles all the time.
I mean, men don't recognize that strength includes feeling.
Yeah,
That's just they somehow got those disconnected, and that
yeah,
they aren't disconnected at all. The more capable you are of, the more comfortable you are with your emotions, the more they become just information that help you guide through life. I mean, if I'm feeling angry, I don't fight it or feel like it's right or wrong. I just get curious. I breathe.
hmm,
Take a look at what that's about. I identify the source of that, whether it's within myself or outside. And it's always inside, to be honest with you.
yeah,
Somebody
yeah,
might be
yeah,
doing something, but why am I getting triggered is what,
yeah,
want to be at the effect of things. And so that allows me to recognize what's ready to be healed now. And
hmm,
that allows me to access another part of myself. And that's how we become whole. And
yeah,
it's in that acceptance of self, that becoming whole, that we find our true strength. That's when you're in control of your life.
yeah, yeah,
That's when how do you know if you're in control of your mind? Stop it.
yeah,
Literally.
yeah,
Stop
yeah.
thought. If you can't
That's
stop
true.
thought, you're not in control of your mind.
If my microphone wasn't connected, I'd drop it right now for you because that's so true. I want to say this too is like you brought this up. A lot of people are always looking for outside for help
Yeah.
when really it's within. Do you think that the reason why they're always looking outside is because a lot of people can't face the fact that it's actually within and it's their own problem that they try to, go out and be like, okay, this is going to fix it. So it's just going to be kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it just blankets it when instead they should be fixing it inside. Do you think that's where like they're scared? You think mostly it would be scared to fix themselves or just they don't know how, the lack of?
I had a CFO I was working with, and it was a good 6 months into the work. And I mean, he'd done a good job. He really had, but there was still challenges that I could see. He still lacked confidence, and he really wanted to become a CFO excuse me, a CEO.
CEO.
And so, we got along really well, great guy. And I called him just I think it was, not a day when we were meeting or anything. I just called him and I said, "You got a minute?" And I said, "I'm really interested to know what's holding you back." And so we had this really great, really guy to guy conversation. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and it surprised both of us, he says, "I'm afraid I'm not fixable." And I was like,
There it is.
you know with the alcoholic father and the trying to maneuver his way through life and everything, he just didn't feel like he was fixable. And so, why would he commit to doing things where
Yeah.
he'd have to look at that?
Thinks it's a waste of time almost, do you think, in his mindset?
Yeah, say that again.
Well, like almost like a waste of time in his mindset?
And very logically, it
Yeah.
is a waste of time. If you're not fixable, why would I spend
Yeah.
all that money and time and da da da?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's the moment a man stops fighting himself that things are going to change. It's a moment that we actually just take a breath and sit with ourselves. For someone, for me, it was a moment, it was after the Marine Corps. My life was a complete abysmal mess. I had PTSD, I was
Mhm.
suicidal, and I literally was in the moment of committing suicide. Deep in the woods, I planned it really well. Nobody'd find my body.
Yeah.
Very uncluttered the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was in that moment that I just let go. I let go of protecting myself. I let go and let myself really feel what I was feeling. I let
When
go.
you're out there by yourself, like when
Oh yeah,
you're out there? Yeah.
completely. I mean, I was 3 days into nowhere. You know,
And like very vulnerable. Then this is a huge vulnerable state with especially like at this part letting go too and really feeling everything at this point in time. Wow. Wow.
and it was the worst moment, most day of my life, but it was the best day of my life because I finally let go. There was no, I could cry, I could yell, I could do whatever I wanted to do. And I just let it out. And it was the first day that I found my breath. It was the
Yeah.
first day that I started looking inside rather than outside. It was the first day that I thought, okay, no, I don't know what my purpose is, but I know I'm here for a reason. And that was, I stopped fighting myself that day, and things radically changed. And they didn't change overnight. I mean, there was this old cabin on an island up in Washington that the family owned. I mean, we're talking outhouse and wood stove kind of.
Wicked.
Nobody was envious of me being there. Dead of winter. I got my feet. I'm just all of a sudden I'm in this quiet, safe place with myself. And it was like I started breathing. I started being with myself. I started being with my feelings. I started being with my thoughts rather than just letting them rampage. I'd walk on the beach for hours, I mean, it was all foggy. And so it was kind of like literally nobody else around. I mean, I ate apples for 3 weeks because I didn't have any money.
Oh no.
Way down the road, a mile or two away, have apple trees. So I survived that. But I mean, yeah, this whole idea of fighting and controlling and holding and stuffing and it's so push. It's this energy of push and aggression, but it pushes us down. It holds us back. It keeps us from ever knowing who we are and what we're capable of. We don't, if you want a relationship maybe, well, start with a relationship with yourself, because relationship, is going to mirror everything.
Yeah.
So, as you take the time to be kind and take care of yourself, all of a sudden you're taking care of your partner, you're taking care of your kids better. All of it changes. And one thing I would share is, and it wasn't easy for me to come up with this, and I still find myself a little struggly when I go to say it, but all of our crap, all of our stuff was created in relationship to other people. All of it. And it needs to be healed in relationship to other people. Now, unfortunately, most other people aren't up for that.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
have to find somebody who's willing to be there with you in that. Certainly, that my role oftentimes is to be that other person to help them and guide them on that exploration. I mean, that's all I am, is a guide on that journey of discovering themselves and becoming more aware, really discovering what they're capable of. But the amazing success that I see. Literally, I'm 78 years old. Trust me, I'm going to have to stop saying that in about a month because I'll be another year old. But I love doing this because it's just like my neighbors. I had a couple older kids that lived next door. They were in their 20s, and they used to take people into Alaska and Canada and, on hunting trips and fishing trips and things, just guiding them because they knew the territory so well. Well, I happen to know this territory well, and it started because I was in deep shit
Yeah.
after the Marine Corps, but, it became territory that I'm intimately familiar with. And so I guide people into that territory so that it's safe for them to go on that inner journey, that hero's journey, if you will, because it changes their life so fully. They always come because they want to do better at work or something like that. But the first thing they recognize is their relationships with their partner. And the next thing is the relationship with their kids. The next thing is their relationship with people around them. And then they, within a year, they've doubled their income. They've moved into a whole new position of responsibility and actual leadership. I had a guy come in from Australia. He just was here a short time ago, and he's got a large company. It's not huge or anything, but it's 55 people or something.
Bigger than mine.
And he's describing what he does, and it's like he's got this amazing company making good money, but he's in a manager role. He's in the health field, and I'm asking him, so how many of your clients, people that he sells his products to, need other health products? And he goes, oh, well, they all do. And I go, well, so how many of those could you be selling to? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and I said, he's coming up with all these ideas because they've already thought of them about,
Yeah, you got the hamster roll in there.
millions of dollars that he could be making. I said, so why aren't you doing that? He goes, oh, I don't have time. And why don't you have time? Well, because I'm managing all of it. It's literally his inability to step up and be a real leader, which really brings out the leadership in others, which allows him the freedom to
Yeah.
take on those other roles. So, I mean,
Well,
one little conversation, he's recognizing, oh, I could
yeah.
literally be making millions of dollars more a year, and I could be having a much more enjoyable life if I just let go of this old mindset of I've got to do it all myself.
So with that, you would in that situation for him, if it was me, I guess would be, hire someone to put it to be in that manager role, to be that person so you can step back and focus on the bigger stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Okay, you have to heal the parts of you that aren't able or willing
yeah.
to do that.
So something is holding him back, being able, wanting, to giving that freedom,
Yeah.
and maybe it's some kind of control that he might have or something like that, right?
And it was, it was.
Yeah.
And by the time he left here, he completely handled that. It was literally in a few days.
Good for
Completely
him.
handled that, and now is totally excited. He's gonna
Yeah.
I think he's got, like, 3 daughters, 3 daughters and his wife. So here he is.
Yeah.
He's
But
in female land all the
but
time.
well, I could say I'm the same too. I mean, I got my daughter, I got my dog, and that's a female. I'm not saying, but I mean, I'm just surrounded all the time, which is
Yeah.
not a bad thing, don't get me wrong,
No,
but the
no. It's
no.
I think it was perfect because there he was,
Yeah.
having to learn to let go and be more sensitive and be aware and
Yeah.
yeah, but it
I
was
would
just
I would have to say my daughter definitely is a big step for that, definitely.
yeah,
I would have to
sure,
say.
yeah.
And they say, and they like, this is no dig at anybody, but they say you haven't fathered until you fathered a daughter. And that's a saying, man.
Having had 2 sons, I would agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because with your daughter, it's like the way you treat her,
Hmm.
your degree of openness, your
Yeah.
degree of healing is gonna determine the kind of husband that she gets
Yes,
or the mate
exactly.
that she gets.
And that's what it is. I'm paving this road,
Yeah,
the moral, hopefully moral road. But I mean, it's a crazy world we live in
yeah,
nowadays. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It is crazy, but at the end of the day, you can just hope the best. And I'm not here to be a helicopter or have one of those. Do you remember back in the day, the kids with the leashes? Parents would put their kids on leashes. I remember that back in the day, like a long time. I'm not one of those. You know what I mean? Like she needs to explore to an extent. You know what I mean? She needs to find out who she is. But me, in a safe space too. So
Well, and that's and it is different. I mean, when I was growing up, I literally very clearly remember, I would leave the house in the morning. I mean, I'm
mhm,
talking 3, 4 years old. I'd leave the house in the morning, go with my buddy across the street and play in the woods all day. I'd
mhm,
come home just, I mean, filthy, playing in the swamp and I mean, other than that.
yeah,
I'd literally just go downstairs, drop all my clothes, get something else, and go upstairs for dinner. I mean,
mhm,
my parents did
yeah.
they have no idea where I was all day long, and that went on for the rest of my life.
But it was safer times, like, I was in that generation. I was born in 1984, right? So, like, you'd leave your doors unlocked, like, but when the street lights come on, that's when you would come home. We would be out everywhere
Yeah,
exploring, gone. And like
yeah,
you said, muddy. Like I live by this park, and we'd make jumps. We'd be taking our jumps off and doing all that. One time, my sister fell into like this, like there's a creek that runs by, and she couldn't get out. It was pretty deep. So
yeah.
then we had to run back, get one of the parents, come back, like what I mean. Like those were the fun days,
It's
where
life,
you like there was no such don't need there was pagers and the big brick gray phones. You know what I mean? That was
right?
that like where you're buying 8 tracks and cassettes, and VHSs with the
Yeah.
dial phone, the good old days, the good old days. Now you got to be careful. You got to lock everything. You got to lock your windows. You got to lock your bedroom door inside of your house out and your outside out. Like you know what I mean? It's a dangerous life out there. It really is, and it puts a lot of stress
But
and mental on
but if
us.
it's dangerous because and I'm really serious about this. The reason it's so dangerous is because of the lack of healing that we as
Definitely,
individuals and the society have done, and it is
definitely.
darker and darker. And so, there's epigenetics where anything that your grandparents or great grandparents went through is still in your body, you know?
Well, even like we have a huge drug program over here, or crisis. I mean, sorry, not program, crisis here in Vancouver. It's
Mhm.
bad. Like it's really bad. I mean, to the fact that they legalized all drugs. Like Vancouver legalized all drugs because they didn't know what to do, so they thought maybe that'll help. Which is blows my mind. It's crazy. Um, yeah, it's just wild. Oh god, I thought where I was going with that. I totally forgot. Oh yeah, so like a lot of the people that are, on the streets doing drugs or homeless and stuff are because they have untreated traumas,
Yeah.
that they never got to deal with. A big portion of it is,
Oh, yeah.
there
Absolutely.
is, don't get me wrong, there is people that just want to live freely. I get it. There is people out there, right? But like I would say 90% of the people out there are is with some kind of trauma, and they use drugs to, numb that,
Yeah.
you know? And like you said, if that trauma was fixed, and you take back yourself and the love that you have inside, and even that leadership, and it doesn't mean you have to be a leader to anybody else, but a leader to yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what counts. A leader to yourself and be accountability. No, that's the number one thing, is take accountability.
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't have these problems. Which then that says our healthcare system sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks. Because
It's
what we're
what
doing hasn't changed anything.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. So like, what's that saying? Keep on doing the same thing over and over. It becomes it's insane or something like that. You know what I mean? So
But I
that's
mean, that's what you're really talking about the core problem.
yeah.
Is our whole medical, that whole system treats most of the time, all they're treating is symptoms.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
it.
look for the cause.
Yeah.
They don't look at what you're eating. They don't look at how you're treating your body. They don't look at the
Yeah.
things that are, it's like they look for things that they can sell you,
Yeah.
drugs and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's not about healthcare. It's about
No.
maintenance.
See,
And so, yeah,
I'm actually on my way becoming a life coach. I'm gonna be specializing in grief because I've lost, I think we had a conversation offline a while back. I've lost a lot of people in my life, right?
yeah,
So I think I'd be a perfect candidate because I've gone through a lot and helped that, I want to do this. And I think I found my calling finally, besides this podcast. I love this podcast, right? So and that's what it is trying to I mean one of my programs is like for grief is like, not band-aid stuff, not giving like the band it's actually real stuff like waking up and making your bed. That's all it is for one day. Just wake up and make your bed because that's sometimes the hardest thing to do,
yeah.
not this like go take an Advil or whatever, a Prozac or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like the real thing. Wake up, first day, wake up, make your bed. Second day, wake up, make your bed, look outside, and it gets you moving. And then like it's not like that vague, but there's a little bit more to it. But I'm just kind of in a nutshell. Don't get me wrong, right? But then like also I put meal plans in there, but very minimal but healthy. Because when you're in that state, you don't want to be making this 5-course meal, wagyu steak because I love wagyu, but you don't want to be making that stuff.
Miso.
You want, yeah, exactly, right. But like something easy,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. It's like we got to like the system just they just love giving out prescriptions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really
That's
make the money.
yeah, exactly, right. It's the pharma. So I just want to say fuck you, pharma. But sorry, this thing's TikTok's telling me.
One thing I would want to add to what you're saying is I'm seeing a lot of people who are involved in personal growth or coaches and stuff. They talk about this is my problem, and they've identified what their issue is or what happened when they were a child.
Yeah.
But that insight isn't transformation. You
Mhm.
have to, you literally have to acknowledge this is what happened. This is what I felt. This is what's going
Mhm.
on. But you also need to fully express those emotions. Help that
Mhm.
little boy or little girl get in touch with those and acknowledge and express those feelings so that they become safe
Yeah.
aspects of who you are, comfortable parts of who you are. Yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm feeling fear or discomfort or stress, that's not a thing that I have to fight. That's not something I'm going to quit breathing over and shut down.
Mhm.
I'm going to breathe and get curious and move forward into it. And
Yeah.
that's how you learn to evolve. That's how you become empowered. That's how you take care of things rather than shoving it back down.
And that's true power, you know what I mean, is dealing with it, and being vulnerable and being able to do it. That's actually real power, and it's okay to cry. I mean, you look on look on my shorts. Like I got me crying on there a couple different times. I don't care. I'm showing you real power. Like I don't and if you're gonna say who you judge me, you're not coming to my birthday party, so I don't care. You know what I mean? And anybody out there judging obviously has issues with themselves, that they have to deal with. So feel free, email me at rawmindspodcast@gmail.com and we'll talk, So that's my little plug for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, okay, sorry, I kind of lost there. But going through that stuff is like, it's the minimum stuff, and then building up and like realizing, like, journaling, and it doesn't have to be like a whole book. It doesn't have, like, you could draw pictures, you can write something, you know what I mean? But journal to express those feelings, to get them out there, because you want to like express them, and if that writing it on a piece of paper gets it out there, it's a great outlet. It's different outlets, and that's just part of, like, I'm just going back to my program. Sorry. So I have a little bit of little things like that, right? And those are the things that matter, like dealing with, like at hand, not like I said, like these pills that we're giving out, or not we, but the pharmacies are giving out, or prescriptions and stuff. Like, it's actually really dealing with, like you said, that little boy or that little girl, and showing them that their feelings are valid, and it's okay that they're, but now they're in a safe spot because, you're here to take over, and they don't have to feel that fight or flight. I went through this, so I kind of, I know the path right now. I got that flashlight like yourself, and I want to help other people get through that, because I know where the door is. It's just over there. It's just super dark, but don't worry, I got that flashlight.
Yeah. Well, and oftentimes you get somebody who's angry, and what they don't recognize, and others, of course, don't recognize either, is that's really just their grief. They're wearing that anger is being, excuse me, that anger is protecting their grief. Anger is just, it's more socially acceptable for a man rather than
Definitely
mask our grief or sadness and that type of thing. And so, I mean, under rage is usually hurt, and under hurt is usually that desire and looking for love and that type of thing.
We're scared little children at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I mean, we're children. We are kids, man. And we lose at the same time as we lose how to be kids too. We lose what fun is, on the other side is that, like, in the whole process of finding yourself, find that kid that used to be, that smiled and have imaginary, because we lose that. We do lose that, and it's important to have that in our lives, because that brings joy. It's okay to be silly sometimes too, like it is, you gotta laugh, man, have fun.
I fully agree with that.
We're getting to the end here, but I do want to ask you one question that I kind of want you to leave with our guests here. And that question is, what should every leader ask themselves tonight?
I think the question that's most important is, well, two things. One is, what's my highest intention? Because the clearer you are about where you want to get to, the more supportive it is for you to heal and grow and become who you need to be to get there. And so the question before that is, well, what level do I want to play on? And that's in all aspects of life. But it turns out that what level you play on is really regulated by your level of consciousness. And your level of consciousness means, well, I'm more aware of what I'm thinking. I'm more aware of what I'm feeling. I'm more aware of how I'm doing in life in any given moment. So really, it's like, are you willing to take responsibility for your life? Are you willing to discover who you are? And that's the nice thing about it. If you know your highest aspiration, what you'd have to breathe into to really accomplish that. And then you ask, well, who do I need to be? And then you ask, well, what do I need to heal and let go of? What do I need to empower? What do I need to open up and become to be able to do what I want in my life? Do you want to live your life in this safe little comfort zone that literally ends up killing you? Or do you want to see what what it is you truly want to do, what you're really here to do, and reach for that? Doesn't even really matter whether you get there or not. It might be too big to, might be that old generational thing where you plant the tree, but somebody else gets to water it, watch it grow up, But,
which is still a beautiful thing too. You know what I mean? It's still, because you're creating a legacy, right? So
yeah, I mean, I want to create a more conscious and caring world. What are the chances of that happening? So far, so good.
Yeah. I mean, hey, one person at a time too, right? That's what
Yeah.
I say, man. One person at a time.
Yeah.
So, Ron, I just want to say thank you, man. I really had a great conversation with you and a lot of insight, and I really appreciate you reaching out and coming on Raw Minds. And you are part of the Raw Minds family now, so you're screwed. But I do want to say, if you want to let everybody know one time, plug one more thing if you want, just so people know where they can reach you, and all the information will be in the description below.
Right. Yeah. Again, I would just say go to Stotts, STOTTS.com, because there's stuff you can download for free that really allow you to start getting to know yourself better. And then that's there intentionally. There's all sorts of information that's designed there to, you don't have to get in touch with me, but you can really benefit tremendously by doing some going inside and taking a look and beginning to understand yourself, beginning to appreciate and understand who you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Why not, right? What do you got else to lose, right? Exactly. Well, Ron, I just want to say again, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on to Raw Minds. I had a great conversation and a lot of insight, and I actually learned a couple things too myself. So I really appreciate you. And everybody else, thank you, and we will see you next week, next Monday. So thank you, everybody. Take it easy, and we'll see you again. Bye. Thank you, man. That was a really good episode.